The motivation to start Springboard came for me 7 years ago when I saw my sister, who was a very talented illustrator, apply to go to grad school to learn UX design. She got into some great programs and she just balked at the idea of taking a $100,000 loan and decided not to go. And that made me realize that there's got to be millions of people like her who need a better way to get the skills they need to get to the careers they want. That's a great question. So Springboard's different from most other online learning platforms. What's happened for the most part in online learning is there's a lot of great companies that put content online, right? If you think about companies that came in the first wave of online learning, maybe around 2010, 2012, these were companies that were putting videos online and you could learn from them. Now the reality is that most of these look like libraries or bookstores, right? And that's great and that's really valuable. But in the offline world, if you wanted to have a career transition and wanted to become a data scientist or become a designer, you wouldn't go to a library or a bookstore. And so what we do is we're a school, we're not a library. And what that means is to have a transformative learning outcome, we provide a ton of career support. Every single student on the Springboard platform gets a one-on-one mentor from the industry. So if you're learning data science, you'll work with a mentor from Airbnb or Dropbox who works with you one-on-one every week on a video call. Then you get a whole suite of career services. You get a student advisor who's in your corner. And so really you're getting this team, almost a village, to support your journey. And that's what makes you successful.
We at Telstra Ventures have been lucky to make 3 investments that touch on online education. The first is Springboard, a digital-only school. The second is CoFence, which provides tools for enterprises to teach their staff around phishing attacks and respond to those threats. And then finally, Ubitech, which is a programmable robots company. The things I look for in evaluating a potential online education opportunity, so there's a few. The first one is a really strong value proposition or return on investment to the learner. So I think it's really critical that a course or a technology really offers skills that are actually valuable to that person in increasing the lifetime earnings they're ultimately able to achieve. And so I think that's a really important thing to look for. I'm very interested in personalization. So I think we're far beyond the days where simple pre-recorded video content is enough. And we're seeing today that a lot of people are noticing with these pre-recorded videos all day long with the pandemic that the engagement rate is very, very low. And so I think that there's a very strong opportunity around personalization, and I'm excited by companies that are showing that actually working. I'm also really like companies that are able to scale a product in this area. So unfortunately in education, there tend to be a lot of businesses that simply are not as scalable. So I'm inherently attracted to businesses that if things go well, they could ultimately serve millions of users, potentially around the world. I really like the idea of democratization as well. So reducing the barrier to actually learn. I think one of the positive silver linings of this awful pandemic that we're all living through is there is a huge growth that's occurring in online learning. And I think we will see online learning, more learning occurring, more people using quick tools to get the skills they need at the right time. And I'm very excited by that opportunity.
And the pandemic has truly changed the acceptance for online learning, right? Every single person who might have been skeptical of the effectiveness of online learning is now watching their kids go to school online in their living room. Right? And so that really changes the way that people think about online learning and the value of it. Now, this also means that at Springboard, we have a job guarantee, which means that if you graduate one of our programs and do all the things that we expect you to do, you'll get a job within a certain amount of time of graduation, or we'll refund your entire tuition. We've only had to do that a couple dozen times in the entire time that we've been running Springboard, out of thousands of students who've come through the program. In the pandemic, of course, and given the economy, we're doubling down on our commitment to job outcomes. This means We are adding features. We are increasing career support. We are finding new ways for our students to tap into the network of Springboard alumni. We have alumni today in 1,800 companies that comprise more than half the Fortune 100. And so we are finding ways for our communities to connect with each other and actually get support each other.
I'm very excited that Telstra Ventures has been able to lead a 31 mil Series B in Springboard, and I'm incredibly excited by the mission of the company and what they're doing. So I was very much attracted to Springboard for several different reasons. Their model of being a digital-only school, teaching skills that are in demand today from anywhere in the world with an asynchronous model that people can do in their own time without having to relocate to a different state, for example, I think is very accessible to learners. So being able to actually build a program that's always been online and online only, it's never had an in-person model, it's been designed from the ground up to be suitable for today's world, I think is attractive. They have a very strong differentiation in their mentor network. So every student is paired with an industry expert who's a mentor. And I've been very fortunate to interview several of these people, and some of them are leaders at Google, for example, or other great technology or other businesses. And so being able to be paired with a mentor for a weekly session or to ask questions really solves one of the big problems that I saw in education, which is a very low completion rate in terms of the MOOCs. So a lot of people sign up, but they just can't motivate themselves to complete the course. And I think that when you're given an industry mentor and you have weekly sessions with them, it really holds you accountable, and it perhaps takes you a bit out of your comfort zone and really forces you to engage and learn if that's something you really want to do. So I really like that and the caliber of the people. I was extremely impressed by the results that they've been able to achieve in terms of the educational outcomes and the job placement rate. So Springboard has a great set of results in this area. 94% of eligible students have been able to secure a job in their chosen field within a year, and the average increase in salary is $26,000. So really excellent results. To give you one example, I spoke to a lady who was a biologist earning about 40K and not very happy with her life, unfortunately. She heard about Springboard in February, she worked really hard to complete the course, and by September she'd signed a contract with a startup earning $110,000 as a machine learning engineer. I was really blown away by what an impressive value proposition that was. And so it's no surprise then that Springboard has announced that they grew 330% year on year between June 2019 and June 2020. So the company's growing very quickly, and their model, I think, is combining strong elements of a really great education with personalization and mentorship.
Learning online is really hard. What we find is, and this is one of the biggest learnings in the early days of Springboard, was that people would start taking a course, but without human support, they would drop off. The completion rates in online courses tend to be 5%, 7%, as low as that. And what we found when we asked people why they weren't completing was people would say, I need human support. I get stuck, I lose motivation, I wish I have someone to talk to. It's lonely to study online. And also when you are taking on a career transformation journey, it's also riddled with self-doubt. You have moments of frustration, you want to give up. You have imposter syndrome. And so throughout that journey, what we do at Springboard is two things. We have a system that can predict when you are losing motivation, because we have data on thousands of students who've gone through our program. So within the first few weeks of your journey, in a 6-month-long journey, in like week 3, we'll know if you're flailing on certain dimensions, and if so, we can pick up the phone and call you. But then also you've got, like I was saying, a village of humans to support you. So you've got your industry mentor. This is somebody who's checking in with you every week, same time every week on a video call. Guess, if you have a mentor check-in on Friday morning, guess what you're doing on Thursday night, right? You have your career coach who's keeping you accountable to your job search and making sure you're applying to a certain number of jobs a week. She might even be helping you with crafting your story for your job search. She might be helping you with figuring out which jobs to apply to, and then making sure that you're actually putting in the applications. You've got a student advisor who's checking in on you and saying, hey, you haven't logged in for the last couple of weeks. Maybe something's going on in your life. Can we talk about it? And how can we assist you? Can we help you build a study plan? Maybe you need to take a break for a couple of weeks, and that's fine too. So that's just some examples of how the human support at Springboard really helps you get through the really hard journey of online learning. And we have tons of stories of students overcoming insane odds and really challenging life situations, supported by their mentor, their career coach, their student advisor to get all the way there.
I think that education is facing a tectonic change at the moment, and I think Springboard has a number of really exciting opportunities ahead of it. So firstly, the pandemic has unfortunately created a situation where there are 13 million Americans with continuing unemployment claims at the moment, which is simply astounding and heartbreaking. So I think that there's an enormous direct-to-consumer or direct-to-learner opportunity where Springboard can really help those people and many others learn the skills they need to be relevant in the world that we're in today. And the gap that exists in terms of the skills that people want to hire, that organizations want to hire, I think is still incredibly deep. And so there's a huge demand for that talent, and Springboard will help meet that need. The company also has a really large opportunity in university partnerships. So they recently launched a course in partnership with the University of New Hampshire, offering UX, UI design and also machine learning engineering courses with the University of New Hampshire. And I think that's a very strong value proposition to both benefit from the brand and association of the uni and also get the valuable skills that Springboard and its program offers. And then finally, I do think that there's a huge opportunity in terms of corporate retraining. So there's been multiple companies like Amazon, JP Morgan, and many, many others who have very large workforces, and a lot of those people unfortunately have skills that are aging in terms of relevance. And so I think there's a very large market in terms of retraining those people and really developing the skills they need to be successful today. And I'm been very pleased with some of the initial work Springboard has done with some blue chip enterprise customers in that space. Finally, I'm very excited by the possibility and perhaps probability that Springboard will ultimately offer much more than simply technology training. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to offer many more programs around in-demand jobs in the future.
So your journey as a Springboard student doesn't end when you finish the course. It doesn't even end when you land a job. We think once you're a Springboarder for life, and it's our mission to help you at every step of your career and really excel in your career, because as alumni, we want to be proud of every single person who's gone through the Springboard experience and really be there through your entire life to support you. And to that end, we have a really, really active alumni community. We see students helping each other out. We've got lots and lots of stories of students who've gotten jobs because they talked to another Springboarder, whether it's an alumni, whether it's a community member, whether it is a mentor. We have lots of Springboard community events. We used to have them offline before the pandemic. Now we've moved them online. But for instance, Springboard Rise, which is our annual conference, we see hundreds of students, alumni, mentors from all over the world come together and learn about each other, support each other's journeys, and really kind of get people to network and succeed. So most people who come to Springboard usually do it after a bachelor's degree, but that's not, we have people who also choose it in place of a traditional degree. So if you think about our parents' generation, right? People went to college, maybe if they were fortunate, they went to grad school, then they had one job for 30 years. That was their career. Maybe they had two jobs. The average millennial is going to have 15 jobs over the course of their career. It's a fundamentally different world that we've never seen before. And we believe that to succeed in this world, you're going to have to pivot and change your career more often. So this idea of you consume all your education until you're 25 and then you're set for life, that's gone, right? And so we believe that instead of maybe spending $100,000 on a master's degree when you're in your mid-20s, you would instead take 5 or 6 times, you'll take transformational learning experiences that are maybe 3 to 6 months long instead of 2 years long and cost $5,000 or $10,000. So to answer your question, right, how is Springboard different from traditional education? A couple of things. One, it is completely focused on employment. We have a job guarantee, but also the curriculum is designed with a job in mind, as well as all the people who are teaching you are industry professionals. So that's one. The second is just cost. It's a fraction of the price. Our programs cost anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 typically for a 6 to 9 month long program. They come with a job guarantee, so really we put our money where our mouth is. And you have multiple ways to finance it, including the ability to pay only once you get a job, which we call deferred tuition. So if you don't get a job, you don't pay anything. If you want to learn to build, use a function in Excel, you should go to Udemy. In fact, perhaps you should go to YouTube. Right? It's free and it's great. If you want to become something, that's a much harder journey. For most people, that takes hundreds of hours of effort and learning and failed attempts and falling down and standing back up again. And that's where we're really good, is in those transformational learning journeys. So if you want to learn a quick skill on the job, there's plenty of other places where you can do it. If you want to really embark on a career transition, that's where we are really valuable. So I think what's happening today is what's going to first get disrupted, and I hate using that term because it's so Silicon Valley, is grad school. So I think the value of the bachelor's degree is also questionable, but it's here to stay for, I'd say, the next decade or two, because employers are too risk averse to hire people without college degrees into white collar jobs. Not because the degree actually is useful at work, but there are these preset notions among employers, and that's changing, but it's gradual. Google and Amazon have gone out and said, I think Google and Facebook actually have gone out and said that they don't need bachelor's degrees anymore. But for that change to percolate down to every hiring manager in the org, that's going to take some time. Master's degrees, on the other hand, most employers don't care for most jobs if you have a master's degree or not. And so second and third tier master's degrees are going to be the first to go away because they don't even have the signaling value that a top tier school has, right? A lot of people, the value they get out of going to a top tier master's program is, unfortunately, the brand, right? Now, in a couple of decades, I do believe that bachelor's degrees will also get chipped away at. So while millennials, for them, going to an undergrad program was very much like the set path, I think that our kids, right, and people in our generation, our kids, by the time they are going to college, call it 15, 20 years from now, it'll be legitimate in that generation to question the value of college and say, college is one path, but I might choose another path. And that'll be a real discussion that we'll be having with our kids. So Udacity is closer to us a little bit, but what they do is they give you a little bit more hand-holding, right? So they'll grade your assignments, for instance, or they will give you a credential at the end of it. And I think what we found is that the vast majority of people need a far greater amount of support to actually be able to succeed. Learning is a very human thing, and most people do their best work when they are accountable to somebody they like and respect. And it's the same for learning. You do your best learning when you're accountable to somebody you like and respect. And what we provide is that whole scaffolding of mentorship, of career coaching, which really gets you all the way to that. And so we are a higher price point than Udemy, but also we're able to guarantee the outcome and say, if you don't get a job, we'll refund your tuition, which somebody like Udacity is not able to do.